Yeah, I mean, I'd always looked at General Motors design and particularly at Opel design, and looked at the vehicles and admired the wonderful surfacing on the cars. And I can, think back to many of the vehicles that were around during my time when I was training to become a designer, and were inspired by things like the Junior show car, for example, the Calibra, vehicles that really were inspiring. So when I joined the company, actually, one of the first things that was asked of me, let's say, probably 2 or 3 weeks in, after I'd had a chance to look around and see what was going on, was, okay, so what do you think? What do you think about, where we are at this point in time? And although I felt the cars at the time were really well put together, the vehicles that were being done, I just felt they'd lost a little bit of the emotion that I'd seen in some earlier vehicles, a little bit of this beautiful sculpted surfacing, and felt that that would be something that we really needed to recapture within the brand and bring that back to prominence and put that in the center of everything we do. And really from that sort of seed, if you like, that germ of an idea, we really then began developing the whole idea of where we are today, and this whole design philosophy that we're calling sculptural artistry meets German precision. The first sort of vehicle that we began developing that around, and in fact we didn't have a name for it back then when I first joined, was the Insignia concept car. That really started to add this emotional, beautiful surfacing to the vehicles. And then really, since then, we've been building and building and building around that framework. And again, when we were bringing the first production interpretation of that to market, which was the Insignia in 2008, people were asking me, so Mark, what are you gonna call the new design language of Opel? And I really pushed back hard on that, because I didn't believe in creating a buzzword or a buzz phrase around a design language, because design languages, I believe, are very transient. Every 3 or 4 years, then you're on to the next best thing. And that's not what I wanted Opel to be. I wanted it to sort of grab some of that rich history that it had and have much more consistency, and really think about how can we drag that through into the future, but always making it contemporary and modern. So we thought about it long and hard, and I said, really what we need is a design philosophy that can stay consistent over time, but that can be reinterpreted. And to really justify, could that be the case going forward, I needed to look in the past. And so I looked back, and I really went all the way back to when this design center was first come to being, and the very first vehicle that was done here, the experimental GT. And I said to myself, right, could that vehicle in 1965 have been defined as sculptural artistry meets German precision? And the answer to that was a clear yes. In the context of 1965, if we'd been thinking of those words, yes, the vehicle could have been. So it felt good to me, because that really felt like it was already in the veins. Those words have just sort of brought it to the surface. It was in the veins of the people that were designing the cars then. Maybe they just didn't call it a word, they didn't call it a phrase. So I think bringing that phrase forward has now been a great drumbeat for everything we do. And it took a while. I got to say, it probably took at least 2 years of me constantly drumming it into the designers, and every review we had and every design we were picking, it was built around that framework. And nowadays, I don't even have to mention it, because my team have it like clockwork. Everyone has it ingrained in them. They know that's the framework that they're building around. But it's one of those frameworks that isn't restrictive. I mean, I see new, fresh, bold designs every day on the walls in the studio. And that's because there is this light framework of what we stand for and what we're trying to be. But at the same time, there's a lot of creative freedom, and it really gives the designers, lets them free. And I think that's very important, Because what we don't want to be is a brand that's predictable. You know, if you're predictable, especially in the design world, then by definition you become boring. And we definitely don't want to be boring. We believe we're doing bold, progressive design that is really true to our brand values, you know, and those brand values are talking about being exciting, approachable, and German. And I think for me the German part is really, really important, because we are a German brand. I may be a Brit, but it probably gives me an advantage because I can look at from the outside in and I can say what is strong about the German culture and how can we bring that culture through in the design work we're doing. And so, you know, I see, as I say, I see that every day coming through in all the things we're doing in a very exciting way. And the journey is sort of going through various cycles. The first cycle, going back to the point I made at the beginning, was taking that Insignia concept car and then basically rolling out that flavor through everything we were doing. So the Insignia production car, the Astra, the Zafira, then into the more later, more, let's call it brand building vehicles like the Adam and the Cascada, Mocha, all being very successful vehicles for us. Now we've done this complete cycle 1.0, we're really into, I call it design 2.0 now, a little bit like a computer program. We're not throwing the whole philosophy away, we're saying no, our philosophy is the same. It's going to always be the same. But now let's make it applicable for 2014 and beyond. And the car sitting behind me was a great example of that. The Monza show car was meant to be the seed that starts the 2.0 cycle. It's meant to be the car that will inspire every other vehicle that comes along behind it and really then bring that new sense of energy, that new sense of German technical quality, and bring that together with this beautiful flowing sculptural shape. And I think that's what we're going to be seeing over the next 5, 6, 7 years as this vehicle influences everything we do coming forward.